We're busy with a building project at the moment in our church, and we have a plan that we've thought of. We have a utilization plan, and then we spoke to our architects and we spoke about various plans with them. We have a time plan, and of course we spoke to the bank because we also need financing. And that's why it was so important for us to have all these puzzle pieces together, and we're coming to that point where we will actually be able to move on with that plan. But before we begin to build, we need so much wisdom, and we've needed wisdom to get to that point. And in Proverbs 24 verse 3 it says, "A house is built by wisdom and fortified by understanding. Through insight its rooms are filled with various riches and treasures. A wise man is mightier than a strong one, and a man who has insight is stronger than one who has great strength." A building is made beautiful by wisdom. We need a rough plan in advance. I think it's very important for us, even when we look in our own lives, and when we look into the life of our church, and we look into the future where we want to build, we have to look forward and say, where are we moving towards? Which plan do we have? It's not about just throwing our hands in the air and saying, I don't know, have no idea where we're moving into. But it says we need to build with wisdom, and Christ is our source of wisdom. In Colossians 2 verse 3 it says, "In him Christ are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge." And we can come to him and receive that wisdom. We know that in the Old Testament, in Isaiah, it's explained then. It's actually speaking about Jesus. A spirit of wisdom and understanding will rest upon him. The spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. He will delight in obeying the Lord. He will not judge by appearance, nor make a decision based on hearsay. He will give justice to the poor and make fair decisions for the exploited. This wisdom that Christ has goes far beyond a normal worldly wisdom that one would generally think of. This wisdom is a prophetic wisdom. It's that wisdom that sees behind what the eyes can see. It's one that hears behind what the natural ears can hear. And that's why it is so important for us to have this wisdom in our lives. And he offers it to us. He offers us this wisdom, and we can build well when we take on that wisdom. If I think of our church property, in 2012, we bought this property. And back then, and even before then, we were looking towards a goal, because we said we need to see how it is with renting buildings in Dresden, because what if we can no longer rent the school or the building we're using? What's going to happen? And that wisdom that we used back then brought us to that point to buy that piece of ground that we actually didn't need back then. And when we think of today, we say, what a great decision that was. Because when we look at the prices in the last 9 years, what has happened there, the price of land, it's unbelievable how much land has increased in price. And in Ethiopia, we have a project. It cost us a lot of energy to register an NGO. But we knew we needed that for the long term. And it would make things much easier, even to be able to employ Germans there. Why? Because we registered an NGO. And back then, we were working with other people, and we could have continued with that. But God gave us prophetic wisdom to say, look, into the future and start register an NGO. And we know that we've grown in that wisdom and we can grow in that. How do we gain wisdom? We need to come into contact with people who have wisdom. The Bible says that we can get a word of wisdom. It's wisdom that we get from a specific situation. We have wisdom for that. Jesus promised his disciples, he says, you'll sit in courts of law and you won't know what to say, but in that moment I will give you words of wisdom that you will be able to answer questions that you wouldn't have known. Solomon had a wisdom that was incomparable or unparalleled to any other wisdom over centuries. Why? Because God gave him that wisdom. And now the challenge for you and an encouragement. We have that opportunity to have wisdom, just as Solomon had, because we have Christ who lives in us. He is the source that lives in us, and he wants to give us that wisdom. He invites us. The Bible says, if there's anyone among you who needs wisdom, because he wants to know how to live according to God's law, just ask him. James chapter 1, it says, ask him. So a question for you. Do you live from day to day, just from day to day, or do you ask yourself, what am I going to need in the next year? What am I going to need in 2 years or in 5 years? That is prophetic wisdom. And that way you will build far more successfully than just living from day to day. Church, what do you need in a year's time, or in 2 years, or in 5 years? When we come to him, we receive the wisdom that looks beyond what we see with the normal eyes, or hears beyond what we hear with our human ears.